right, and we are live. Iron Lords Podcast, lordsofgaming.net. And who is this fine gentleman we have in the realm of New York City today?
My name's Guillaume. I'm the original founder of Compulsion, and I'm here on the chat with you guys about whatever you guys want to chat about.
Your history at Compulsion, and I played your wonderful games. Contrast was one of my favorites when it came out, and then We Happy Few took me on a trip that I couldn't get away from, and you made me cry today. All right, so and literally I didn't expect that, so I definitely had to talk to you about this.
Sure, yeah. I mean, what do you guys want to know? Like how it started, like where we're right now?
No, great question.
Yeah.
Start from the beginning. Again, Compulsion, the journey. Again, Contrast, remember being an early PS4 game launch title, very unique, very bespoke. And then We Happy Few was absolutely hilarious to me, just what you guys were trying to do. So you guys have kind of developed your identity, and then obviously we hear about the acquisition, right? And
Sure.
Compulsion Games, now part of Xbox Game Studios. So take us through that journey and now to where we are to South of Midnight.
All right. Well, so I think the start of the journey for me happened actually at Arcane. So first half of my career, really the first half of my career, I was a programmer, I was a producer, I was a guy that got stuff done. I wasn't so much involved in the creative stuff. And then I got a chance to work with a wonderful team in Lyon for a year and just kind of see their process and got really inspired about like telling stories and creating worlds and having my own ideas. And really, we're in the middle of the last economic crisis. We're in 2009. And I didn't really have a business plan at that time, but I'd seen Braid and Castle Crashers, which are like the two kind of first games that were shipping on Xbox Live Arcade at the time. Steam wasn't really a thing, but I was like, I think there's a way for me to have like a small team and maybe try something out creatively. So the genesis of our first game, Contrast, came really at the business plan of, I'm going to make a game, I'm going to get it out of my system, I'll probably go bankrupt, and then I'll just find a job. That was literally the business plan. It wasn't really all that complicated. And so we started out of my house. So Whitney Clayton, who was the company's first employee, she was straight out of school at the time, and I didn't have any money. And we sat down in the back, and I explained kind of what the shadow mechanic, crazy, weird thing that I wanted to do, because we had just, I had just worked with Valve on helping beta test the Orange Box. I was really inspired by Portal originally, and I wanted to find a similar type of mechanic that could build like that first game concept. And Whitney brought a lot of the world creation and the kind of the ideas. She looked at the mechanic, and she was like, whoa, like 1940s, 1950s, there's this cinematic movement called film noir, then that shadows are really important in that film, and we started building that first world and that first piece. So for the first game we built, we were really bootstrapping. I would go to PAX and I'd build my own like monitors in the back and like hope that people would come over and come look at the games that we were doing. And we were about, I think 9 people total when we shipped Contrast, and then when we started We Happy Few, we saw a lot of independent game developers that had been doing mobile games, they'd been doing Facebook games, and they were all migrating to Steam because Steam had taken off at that point. And our timing was pretty lucky about like being able to do something creative, but have a way to actually reach an audience and share our work with the world. And so we started on We Happy Few with the idea that we would make something that was a little bit community driven, that we wanted to engage the community in the work that we were doing. And we also wanted to grow the team a little bit. So we did a Kickstarter, we went at PAX, got people excited about it. And then I came and tried to shop my trailer around at conferences to try to get eyeballs on our first game.
Listen to my demo,
Passing the joy around. Remember?
Passing the joy around. Yeah, exactly.
Take the joy.
And I happened to be at the right place at the right time, and Microsoft seemed to be interested in it. So they put us on stage in 2016.
Yeah, I remember that.
For We Happy Few, and we showed like the first 5 minutes opening of the game. And it was funny because you're sitting on that stage, and there's all these stage lights coming up, and you can't see anything, and there's like crowds yelling in the very background, and I'm like sitting there. My only job is to hold the controller and play the game.
No pressure.
They didn't give me any microphones. That was just my job, is to play the game in front of the stage. And I had to tell you, like that sudden, because I had never done press before, right? Like, so suddenly I'm the guy that's speaking. I'm in front of monitors, and I got to do the news and this stuff for the first time. And so I remember almost fainting on that stage. So that gave the studio a huge amount of attention at the time. But also a lot of hype. And I'm like thinking, man, we're 13 people. People are comparing us to BioShock, but we're like this small team.
Embarrassing is real. I remember
So it's this idea that people get really excited, but like you have to kind of temper to make sure people don't have the wrong idea about what you're building. And so that project was we worked with the community for, I think we did 168 updates every week, telling the community what we were building, how we were moving.
It was an early access in
That's
the
right.
background.
We did everything, man.
Yeah,
I did funding. I did
Yeah.
Kickstarter. We leveraged our Kickstarter fan base and community to go into an early access campaign. We kept doing updates all the way through, and then we signed with Gearbox Publishing.
Yes.
To make a retail copy, and like again did DLCs, and so that for me that was a huge level of growth for the company, and really that first kind of understanding from 2 games that we'd made, what kind of company were we, what were the things that we were good at, and then then I got a call on a Tuesday night at 11 p.m. asking me if I'd like to be part of the Microsoft family. And at the time I got the call, it was kind of an interesting time. My team, we're craftspeople. We get excited about just doing great work. And the messaging that was coming from Xbox at the time, and is still today, it was just like, Guillaume, we don't want to come tell you what colors Smurfs are. Okay, you get to decide whether they're blue or yellow. They're blue.
They're blue.
No, but basically the message was, we don't want to meddle with the creative direction of what you're doing, but we want to give you more stability, more means for the team to be able to bloom, hopefully, with our support, and we want you to do that for Xbox. That was really the message. And so that really resonated with my team, because all we care about is doing great work, right? And I had some confidence that the type of content we could build would still be faithful and weird and interesting. We liked, with every project that we do, to have a distinctive voice, that the game is visually recognizable, that the world is interesting. And Xbox was really into that as being like the vision for the studio and the reason for us to kind of join the group as a whole. So yeah, there was a little bit,
What I've noticed is you have a very striking visual art style. And it started from Contrast, and it goes to We Happy Few, and it has extended itself to South of Midnight. And I think that's your wheelhouse, because I think you perfected it in this game. Like earlier on games, it didn't draw me in completely, but I think the musicality, the visuals, everything that went into the game, what made you go to the Deep South and feel that that was the place that you wanted to make your bones, so to say, in this game?
So when we make new game worlds, like the location and settings, kind of really the first thing that we kind of settle on, and we have a process that we'll go through to develop it. When originally South of Midnight started ideating, I had done creative direction on the first 2 games, but I was integrating in a company that was 250,000 people at the time. For the first time, and just managing the studio's integration into the team. And so I sat down with Whitney and David, our creative director, and I said, why don't you guys just own a project for on this project while I'm managing us joining the Xbox family. And so Whitney, Alex, and David, they went away and they brainstormed a few different settings at the time. And I won't tell you what the other settings were,
because we might revisit them later.
But like it was, but they came out with a few different settings. Then we sat down together as a group, and what really I felt compelling about the choice of using the American Deep South was twofold. One, I felt that it was a setting that was covered in television and other media, but fairly underrepresented in the video game space. So it felt like an interesting setting for us to have a different, distinctive voice. The mythology of the area was interesting. It felt like there was enough depth to it. And the second thing was that we had a sufficient number of team members on our team that were either from the Deep South or familiar with the Deep South.
So you're able to pull from these members.
Well, pull from the members, but also because we'll do a lot of research. But it's important for us to have people on the team that can just raise red flags if we're not
Yes.
handling something properly, or confirm that this is a really really important piece of the local lore. And then of course, before committing to the Deep South, we did this for all our games, and we do this for all our games. Is we'll go on a research trip. We'll actually live in the space. We'll get to like understand like the vibe of the general area.
Right.
And just say, can we live in the space for the next 3 to 4 years while
Right,
we're building it? So the team went on 2 different research trips. So one for 2 weeks in the Louisiana, Cajun area in the south, which I did not go to, but I went to the second research trip alongside with the team in the Appalachian area. So Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, kind of just, again, figuring all the little details, like how many churches are there, like what are people talking about locally, like how do people see the area themselves, how do the locals see the area themselves. What's a Piggly Wiggly? Like, just getting,
that's
like,
huge though.
We
yeah,
gotta
like
get that. We gotta get that.
What's on the
we don't have that
billboards?
here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So I think just getting that research for Whitney specifically to kind of get the most iconic pieces to make sure that they come out in the game, but also for us to actually just understand which pieces we want to take and kind of dial up to 11 in the game to kind of really celebrate that area. And it was important for everyone on the team that if you are from the region, that you feel like we've done our homework in terms of like representing the area, its people, and the general like vibe and feel of the places that we're in. So
no, I appreciate that. I just want to jump in, and in terms of how important that is. Obviously, to ingratiate that into the game, and again, like you said earlier, we don't see that, right? We just don't see Deep South. We don't see that. And I'm the type of person when I play games, I like going to new areas. Even when you did, We Happy Few, I'm like, okay, going over there. London, Brendan, what I'm saying? I like that energy is really cool to see in games. And I wanted to add on in terms of the Deep South aspect, but also the decision for stop motion. Because I thought that makes South of Midnight very unique. We really don't see that. Obviously, we talked to Pat Henry and obviously their involvement, but I want to get into that specific decision process with the stop motion and incorporating that into the game.
So I give 100% credit. That's totally Whitney's idea, right? Like Whitney drives a lot of the world creation in our studio. She also drives a lot of the stylistic decisions in our studio. The only thing I did was like she wasn't quite sure at the beginning. She's like, "Oh, what do you think? Stop!" And I just go do it. Like, and the reason because it'll be distinctive, it'll be visually distinctive, and it will make a game that is instantaneously recognizable. And a lot of the creative process in our studio, and I've worked in different studios that have different cultures, and all of them work. So it's not like our way is better than the other way, but like we work a little bit more like a jazz band, like which is just
That's
like
what I felt,
yeah. It doesn't really matter if the pianist starts or the singer starts or the guitarist start. We all kind of like zing badly for a couple of minutes, and then we kind of fall into tune.
And homes and
and sometimes that means that we take a little bit longer to take decisions, but I like from just a creative energy for doing anything that's new, that works really well. And so Whitney had been really, and it's funny because we talked earlier, there was a question about Coraline, and Coraline was a huge inspiration for our first game, Contrast.
Right.
And we did talk to Henry Selick, actually, for that game. But Whitney's always been interested by stop motion. It was something that she was always like really inspired by, and she was curious to see how that juxtaposition would work.
And that's a make or break thing, because I noticed a lot of discourse in the community that was a stop motion just a permanent, and then we found out from the Paris Lily interview that you can turn it off.
That's right. So I want to be careful because you can turn it off in all the gameplay pieces,
Right,
but the
not
cutscenes,
the cutscenes.
right,
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, it's important for us that in the game itself, like the motion of the character is fluid, that you're not feeling like you're missing any frames when you're playing. Mm-hmm. But yes, we looked at the community feedback. We looked at, also did a lot of user research about people playing the game. And so there's absolutely an option for you to turn it off if you don't like it. But when it comes to the non-interactive parts, so the cutscenes that you're seeing inside the game, the artistic parts, where you're not controlling the character, we've made the decision to make sure that we're paying close attention to when the game transitions from gameplay to cutscenes, so that it's not jarring. I think that's something that we learned this summer during the showcase, to make sure that those transitions are smooth and don't feel like we're dropping frames, but that the actual animation, respects like the original creative vision that we had for
I
that.
have to make an admission. When I saw it, I said, well, I'm going to play with it turned off.
Yep.
And then I saw the intro, which was done in stop animation. I'm a huge fan of stop animation. And I said, nah, I got to play it with it.
Yeah.
And I realized, because I played it in both ways, I like it better with the stop animation. And I thought that was a great choice because it makes it distinctive and it makes it completely yours. And it adds to the sound. It has a texture. And I was just like, you saw when I got up, and I really didn't have words to say because I was still absorbing the game. And you said at that moment when I tried to talk to you, what did you say?
Well, you just said yes.
He's like, yep, that's it.
You just said yes, and I said that's the best compliment.
No, look,
If that's the reaction you get. Listen, we have strong artistic vision, but we also want to make sure that players can actually choose to play the way that they want. There's a bunch of accessibility and difficulty features that you can actually customize the game's experience and difficulty in the way that you want, like in terms of like skipping. If there's certain things that you are having more trouble with and you want to make those easier, we've spent a lot of time just wanting to make sure that we have a way that we think you should play it, but that if you want to be able to customize things that you're not so much into or that you want to make easier, that the game actually provides you those options.
If I can say one thing about the game, it has a soul.
Yep.
And the soul that I got, that it came across well, because the first trailer we saw just a platforming game that is done in the South. Then we saw the documentary, the vid doc, and that gave us a deeper look on your research.
Mm-hmm.
The last director's direct gave us that it did have a story that had heart.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I didn't know how much heart.
Yeah.
And could you talk about the wanting to put that much heart into a game to invoke emotion?
Well, yeah, like so in the stories that we tell, we always want to tell relatable stories about relatable stakes, and so that you can associate, so anybody can associate with what the characters are going through. And in the story we're telling with Hazel, I think that was a mission goal for the entire team, that we could associate with it, that the people from the South could associate with it, and that anybody anywhere in the world could understand the stakes that she was going through. We make sure that the entire team understands what the journey she goes through is. And there's some levity in her personality, but there's also, she'll encounter a lot of these creatures, and these creatures have, they have a past to them that's not always pretty, right? So there's really a lot of different colors to the story we're trying to tell. And then the team, from an artistic perspective, from the animations perspective, from the musicality perspective, all understands what the journey is going to be. And we then build like the actual songs, the tonality of the songs that are built into it. The lyrics tell the story of the creatures. And that's weaved into the experience of playing it. And getting to that level of emotional impact means having enough time in our production cycle to go minute by minute and just say, you know what, that VO line, it shouldn't be there. It's still a little bit too delayed, or the tone's off, right? So that the luxury of being part of Microsoft and Xbox was that I'm not looking at my bank account going down to zero. Because I can tell you, every other time I shipped a game, I had to sit down with the team and tell them, okay, this is how many months we have before we're out of a job.
Right.
And we've gotten the time to actually being able to curate the game's experience, and I think that's what gets all the different components, the musical components, the combat, the gameplay components, and the story elements that we're weaving through the tapestry of the different locations that you get to visit, all come together in one kind of piece that builds that experience.
That's awesome, man. I know we're in a rapid conclusion here. I just wanted to, again, shout out yourself and the teams, everyone involved. Obviously, being King, we got a chance to play.
Yes.
We thought I was actually amazed more at the platforming and how well it played, but like the King said, the heart, the attention to the deep south, the attention to the lore, and you see the passion comes through for the game. Anything in conclusion that you want to say, people about to get their hands on this thing in April? What do you want to say as far as this culmination of work at the final moment? We're close to the finish line. What are the final things you want to say to the team?
I hope that if you get a chance to play the game, you will come out the other end of it and feeling the game respected every minute of your time. And if that's the conclusion that you've gotten at the end, and that you were like, yeah, I spent 10, 12 hours playing this game, and that's a great investment of time that I'll have memories for, then we've done our job as good entertainers. And hopefully you get to discover lore or mythology or an area of the world that maybe you're less familiar with, or maybe you're familiar with and happy to have it celebrate in the medium.
Thank you so much, Lord Guillaume. Compulsion Games, an absolute pleasure to have you in the realm of the Lords. We're approaching that list, and that's South of Midnight, April
8th.
April 8th.